The 1985 New York Mets were on the verge of breaking out into a National League powerhouse. Their rotation was anchored by reigning Rookie of the Year Doc Gooden, while Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, and Darryl Strawberry led the offensive charge. But entering spring training, a tall, lanky, unknown player appeared, carrying a French horn and wearing only one shoe. That young man was Hayden Siddhartha Finch, but he went by Sid. Originally raised in an English orphanage, Finch was a Tibetan monk who briefly attended Harvard University. He was very skilled as a French horn player, and he only wore one heavy hiker's boot on his right foot. Although he had never played baseball before, his fastball was clocked at an astonishing 168 miles an hour. Yes, 168 miles per hour. Batters were scared to face him, and he was notorious for tearing the gloves of his catchers. In the pre-internet times, it wasn't uncommon for teams to make a signing without it being known to the general public. So Finch appearing at Mets camp was a shock to everyone, and the media wanted to know more about him.
The Mets have been trying to keep the secret as well as they can, but slowly the word is starting to get out. Apparently the Mets have signed a young, gangly, unknown pitcher who may be the best to ever play the game. We're told he's never really played organized baseball before because he spent many of his formidable years in Tibet. But we're also told he throws a pitch so fast that none of the batters in spring training have yet been able to even touch one of his pitches with a bat.
Sid, whenever he throws, we didn't get to have anybody that wanted to catch him.
Fastest pitch ever clocked before this was only 105 miles an hour, and here he is throwing the ball 168 miles an hour. How good is he really?
Well, Reynolds says that there's no way anybody could ever hit him.
It's like trying to catch something you can't hardly see.
And this kid came up and said, in this very polite way, he said, "Sir, I would like to show you the art of the pitch." And this kid put a bottle on a fence post, and all of a sudden he wound up and this bottle just exploded, and the ball just kept on going. I mean, and it was the velocity that got him, Schaefer. And he said, "Son, would you do that again, please?" In fact, the scouting report is in Sports Illustrated. You can see the notations that Schaefer made on it, and that's how they got him to come to camp.
Sports Illustrated broke the story in April of 1985, and the legend of Sidd Finch was born. Local Mets beat writers were scolded by their editors for not discovering him first and allowing a national publication to have the first scoop. After reading about Finch in Sports Illustrated, two separate general managers called the commissioner's office to voice their concerns about their players' safety. They were concerned that, due to the sheer speed of his fastball, somebody could get hurt. But much of the speculation was well-deserved, as Sidd Finch was actually a high school art teacher named Joe Burton, and Sports Illustrated had just played the best prank of all time on their April 1st issue.
When you're the editor of a weekly magazine, you're always aware of the Monday date because that's the issue date. And it dawned on me sometime around Christmas, gosh, April 1st is an issue date. We're gonna have some fun and do an April Fool's story.
The thought of him throwing the ball 168 miles per hour in a Met uniform, oh, you know, we're ready for a miracle.
Can you just tell us who Sidd Finch was?
There was no Sidd Finch. Pete, I hate to break this to you. There was no Sidd Finch.
First time I heard the name Sidd Finch. Lane Stewart, the photographer on the story, and a good friend of mine, he called me up and he wanted to know if I wanted to do a baseball story. 1985, I was an art teacher not too far from my house at Julian Middle School. I would attend symposiums, occasionally get to Oxford to lecture on Lawrence of Arabia. We're walking back from that beach scene and people are coming up to me, you know, "Who are you? You're with the Mets." I guess I'm just, I'm Sidd Finch. How are you? You know, I'm down here working out.
Now, there are a lot of working parts to make this happen. Managing editor Mark Mulvey came up with the elaborate hoax and gave the assignment to famed writer George Plimpton. For those unaware, Plimpton was a character amongst himself and was the perfect man for the job. Before creating Sidd Finch, Plimpton pitched in a game against Willie Mays, sparred with Sugar Ray Robinson, played quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and played goalie for the Boston Bruins. The best way to make this more believable was to get the Mets on board. Legendary Mets public relations guy Jay Horwitz heard the idea and absolutely loved it. He arranged for Finch to have a full uniform and locker, as well as give Sports Illustrated full access to get photos of Finch working out and throwing with Mets catchers and personnel. All of this made the illusion of Finch even more believable, but the ultimate clue lied in the opening paragraph of the article written by Plimpton.
I don't think we really knew what people would believe or would not believe, but there were tips in the story.
I thought we left lots of little breadcrumb clues We called it The Curious Case of Sidd Finch, but then in the subhead, to explain the story, I wanted to do something where if you took the first letter of every word, it would spell out Happy April Fool's Day.
So kudos to Sports Illustrated and the New York Mets. The legend of Sidd Finch will live on forever as the best April Fool's prank of all time.